So we're back for episode 5 of Chuang, Asia, Thailand. Now, last week we did have a filler episode, and I didn't bother covering it because I don't really like to comment on holiday or even sports day episodes unless it relates to the competition, or showing some kind of growth in the trainees. And so it was still a fun watch, sponsored by Trip.com. And what we learned in the last episode was things like Krista can play the drums, brought to you by Trip.com, and that Arjing's mom really wants Mentor 10's and Jeff's autographs, also brought to you by Trip.com. And so now let's just get back to this episode, episode 5. This episode, it was basically all dedicated to elimination. And, I actually fully appreciate that they didn't interfere with random filler as a tension break like they do on other shows. Instead, we opened up with the girls here doing some sort of a Q&A with the mentors regarding their career and how they want to handle the reality of certain things like stress, fandom, and accepting your situation. And so at some point, something funny happened, which is that you have the mentor Jackson here, and he's talking to Lissa, and he's wearing this hat that looks like Mickey Mouse ears. And then Lissa's talking, and she has this hat bow, and it looks like Mickey is talking to Minnie Mouse here, having a heart to heart. And I thought that was kind of funny. But other than that, while they were giving advice to these girls, there is a section where Mike here, and he's talking to kind of just the girls who didn't say they believed they'd be in top 9 or they didn't believe they'd be eliminated. They're just kind of not really sure. So Mike and Jeff were talking to them, and he gave them advice about how, they were asking questions, and they gave them the opportunity to ask questions. And, he basically mentioned something about how the stress that they're experiencing right now is something they're going to continue to experience if they follow the career path. And so there's really no way out of it, and they better learn to like it or get used to it. He also mentioned something about fan fickleness and how you can't control it. And then after that, there was something about Jackson. After the judges all joined each other, Jackson was basically saying, this is an ongoing journey. So regardless of whether or not you get eliminated at this point, you really have to just look at it as a step. And it's not kind of like the be-all, end-all of your career. And if you're committed to it, you'll probably, just have to continue working to it like you believe in it. Anyways, that's it. That's all the parts for these Q&A section. And I thought those were the most helpful comments they made for these girls. And then we get to the eliminations. And so with the eliminations, you should note that after these eliminations, the top 9 is basically automatically considered Class A. And with regards to this competition, the top 9 were pretty resilient throughout this elimination. And so several rankings did drastically change. And the last time we saw ranks with regards to the top 9, Akari and Emma, is it Akari or Akare? I don't know. But anyways, they did shuffle out of the top 9. And the dark horse for the top 9 in this section was Rinka. And so Rinka of Girls Planet 999, she shot up to 3rd place. And, you could kind of tell something like that was going to happen if you looked at the ranking changes. Previously, it went from 35 to rank 10. And that stuff actually honestly makes more sense to me that she's in the top 9 than Liu Yuting, who is currently holding 2nd place. Now, I don't have anything against Liu Yuting. It's just that she was never highlighted, and I don't really know where her merits are coming from. It seems like maybe she's just being voted on outside of the show and with a pre-existing fan base, kind of like Pailu. But Pailu I can understand because they're in Thailand, and Pailu has a huge base of support already. And so, anyways, Liu Yuting, she's never left the top 9 since the 2nd ranking, and so characters like her, I was like, I don't know where it comes from, but I can accept that it's there. Other notable shifts near the top 9 are Akina, Liliana, and Yuan K, and those guys jumped into the top 12 basically, all the way from the 30-ish range, all 3 of those girls. And so that was interesting. And so, seeing all these girls, by the way, and they're in kind of like, it looks like a high school gymnasium here. And I was kind of feeling bad for them because they were here, instead of walking up like a stepped set with a top 9 chair sitting there, like I kind of felt bad for them because I was like, what's going on here? Why are they doing it in this location? Is this part of the location they're filming at? It all seems to be a high school. But anyways, it was just kind of like some kind of backwards graduation to me. And so I did feel bad about them for that reason. But at the same time, when I think about their real situation, T-pop, it's developing pretty well. And so I don't really feel that bad for the trainees, the local trainees at least. Because, if this was a place with a non-existent pop industry, or it was like Korea's oversaturated industry, then I might feel bad about it. But because T-pop has been thriving so much, I think it's ripe for like a lot of new groups. And Thailand has a bigger population than Korea, and it's also more international friendly in general. And so, I just saw a T-pop video by a group called Atlas, and I feel like it's a really good track. Their latest track, I can't remember the name of it right now, but I feel like that's not the first thing that blew me away very recently. And so, even though the industry is not that developed yet, it's developing at a fast pace, and there seems to be less social restrictions or stigmas on idol behavior as well. And so that's also more welcoming to more fans internationally. And so I feel like if the girls are meant to succeed, they can. But I understand that it is still difficult for a lot of the girls who have to go home to other foreign countries. And people were talking about why didn't they do this show in a more popular area, like like in a place that's different, rather than, obviously they can't do the show in China, but people were saying they should do it in Singapore, and I just feel like those are not that developed. It looks nice from a society standpoint, but in terms of like the pop industry, I feel like T-pop is the next one up on the list, right? But anyways, hopefully everyone succeeds in their dream if they continue to pursue their dream. But I kind of know that not everyone will. But regarding the rankings beyond the top 9, a lot of drastic changes did happen. And, just looking how, if I was looking at my list, I color coded things. If they went down, I put a red color. If they went up, I put a green color, for example. Let me just show you. So I've been tracking them. This is from the second eliminations. And so green means they were going up, red means they were going down, orange means they went down twice, blue means they went up twice in ranking, and then black means they stayed the same pretty much. And then there's going to be some like deeper reds from when they dropped even further, or some light greens from when they raised even further. And so there were a lot of drastic changes, and look at this, it's just basically a potpourri of different colors, and there's no real predictability to it, and so I was very confused by a lot of this. It's extremely unpredictable. And so, other than that, earlier in the season, there was a kind of steady top 25. Unless I'm getting confused with another show, I believe that it was steady in terms of the 25 with maybe 3 changes in terms of the top 25. But there was a slight shuffle like an episode or two ago. And it seems like since then, there's been like a new kind of status quo. And, I was wondering if it's possible that people change their minds based on the recent episodes, like the filler episode, for example. But regardless, I actually don't expect there to be any more surprises moving forward, because when I look at this top 34, and disregarding the 5 girls who were saved, looking at that, the fodder has basically been trimmed. And when you look at the girls that were trimmed, maybe one of 4 of those girls, one in every 4, they had some X factor. But what is left here in terms of the top 34, there is X factor in all of them, and so it's pretty solid. And I would say that the only fodder that did make it through is in the saved girls. Like there was not a lot of choice with regards to like Vita or Ninent or Ansang, right? I do think it was a good thing to save Yui and Arjing. But anyways, uh, that that TikTok save mechanic was kind of weird, to be honest, because I looked at it and they could have just had a top 39. But then also I saw the preview at the end for the next episode, and apparently people are going to be eliminated just based on the whims of the team leader of that group. And so I don't know, maybe the showrunners are trying to cause some drama, and I don't know if those girls are going to be like, oh, you were just saved, and maybe it's fair that you just be eliminated because you weren't selected by the people. I mean, that's an easy way out, but it seems like some of the choices were made for like friendships, and so I'm not sure if the girls are going to be entirely fair in that regard. But beyond the top 9, beyond all that, I feel like I was surprised when Jay Jasper got dropped. And so, she wasn't really gaining in ranks. It was actually the opposite. She was dropping. But I didn't think she would drop off like the top 34. I thought that it would be slower, or that she would hold steady at 24. But then at the same time, when you think about her performance on the show, she didn't step up to leadership. And I think it hurt her because she was next to Eileen, who just kind of like shined in that situation. And so it kind of made Jay Jasper seem like she was not fit for a group. And let's be honest, she was never really anything more than a solo act. Even though she was saying this is kind of like her dream, she wasn't acting like it was her dream. She didn't seem like she was fitting in a lot. She was still trying to stand out in the group, right, on her own. And so I guess it's not that much of a surprise, but to me it was a surprise. I thought she would hold steady at 24. I thought she had support, to be honest. But anyways, other than that, Liliana, I was surprised about. She was one step away from elimination at 35. And now she's actually 2 steps in the top 9. And honestly, I think this ranking is actually more appropriate given her level of visibility, because she's so visible on the show, right? And people have this thing about them, is that there are several types of beauty in this world, right? There's classic beauty, which is based on society in the classical age. Then there is also youthful beauty, whereas once you hit 40, anyone young just seems beautiful to you. I don't know, I'm just letting you guys know that once you hit a certain age, everyone younger just seems beautiful. And so there's youthful beauty. But then there is kind of superficial beauty in 2 directions. But superficial beauty is a subset of this kind of beauty, which is called familiar beauty. And so anything that's repetitive to you, anything that you see a lot, it's considered beauty because it's familiar. And so Liliana has a lot of visibility. And so I feel like she would gain just from that alone. And I'm glad she did. She made it to the top 9. Not the top 9, 2 steps from the top 9. But anyways, other than that, there is also Lissa. So Lissa, she was in the 26th, about in the second rankings. She dropped to 42, and I was kind of like, oh, maybe she's not going to make it past. Maybe she's a gimmick. Maybe she's not going to make it past 42, but she successfully got the green color here and got to 27, and so she made it in the end with her lucky color. And she was one of the first to be saved in the eliminations, but she previously mentioned something about a desire to not be considered a joke. Now, I don't really think that anyone considers a joke. I feel like she's a girl with one gimmick, and that's fine. I don't consider her a joke. But I think that sentiment about saying I don't want to be considered like a joke or a laughingstock and something, I feel that's a little silly. It's not the reality for her, by the way. But I feel that sentiment is silly because I think you should embrace the chance like that and then change it once you carve out some kind of security. So, like, if you're popular because you say something like, oopsie daisy, I feel like that's fine. Just say it, get popular, and then slowly stop saying it. I mean, I feel like that's the best thing. But, if you kind of like sabotage yourself by saying publicly, very publicly, that you're kind of rejecting or refusing this perception, I mean, people are going to take that as a challenge and not prolong your suffering. And they're going to be in the right for doing it, and they're going to be doing it for a moral reason, But anyways, hopefully she stops thinking about it that way, and I think that she should try to be a pretty girl. I feel like she should do what she did in the first episode with her like Russian hats and her like makeup, whatever she did, and just like kind of keep that look and try to be like a pretty girl, because that's kind of her thing. She seems like kind of pretty, kind of like bubbly in that way. But being like the depressed, like I don't want to be a joke, kind of like, or acting like she's a humorous person. I don't think people actually saw that. I think it kind of rolled off. I know that they were doing stuff like that, like trying to do like jokey things like that, but it actually didn't stick, and no one would really notice it. So hopefully she understands that, and just kind of like just tries to be a normal trainee from now on. I guess she has a chance. And then you contrast that with barista girl. What's her name? Jasmine. Jasmine. She embraced her jokes, and everyone embraced her jokes, and now she's just like a kind of underdog, actually, and people are empathizing with her disbelief of this success, and they feel happy for her because she's just kind of a girl who works in the coffee shop. And so, I like what she's doing. I like what she's doing. A lot of people like what she's doing, and a lot of people relate to her because of that, because she just seems like a normal person. And if people like her because of her jokes, or because she's very visible because of her jokes, that's something to take advantage of, I think. But anyways, this episode ended up being chopped up rather abruptly, and I still don't understand why the show is being split into two parts. It's just more eliminations. Like I thought, when I finished the eliminations, and it was like 2.5 hours later, I was actually expecting a part two, and I didn't notice that it actually shifted over because of the autoplay function that you can't stop, by the way. I thought that was it. I thought we were gonna get like the beginning of preparing for the next competition section, but it wasn't. That was all the eliminations, and at some point, right after Jasmine, I think, and right before Ruan, it was a shift to the next episode. But anyways, speaking of Ruan fell from ranking number 4 to ranking number 6, which is a very small fall. And I don't think the trainees are aware of their rankings before this point, but Ruan seemed bothered that she wasn't in first, and she said that she was going to be committed to trying to attain it. And I'm sure that's fine, that's cool, but I don't know if people voting are going to be swayed easily by pure performance. Because I think that this show is kind of more of a fandom war than a legitimate performance-based competition. I feel like if there are a group of people, and there's usually only a handful of group of people who will vote based on skill, and if those people's like ideas are correct, they will all push one person max, right? It's not going to be like, oh, we vote based on skill, and then they're going to push in 5 people. That's just not going to happen. They're going to push one person primarily, and then I don't know who the rest are going to be, but it's usually only one person is going to get it. But yeah, you do get 9 votes. But really, if you're selecting on skill, you have to have one person who's really skilled. But then you also have to consider all the other factors like visuals or visibility, all that stuff. Because if you're serious about the person you want to get in being successful, you have to make sure the group's successful. And so you have to push in people alongside them who are going to make that group successful. Or else it's all just like, I don't know, like a sham, really. And I never understood this part about people voting for people out of sympathy, but then they don't care about whether the group will succeed or not. They just want to win the survival show, but they're not going to win beyond the survival show. That's why the best rule I learned from lots of years of X Factor and American Idol is that vote for the person whose album you would buy. That's the best metric. Or people's whose songs you will stream. I don't really know how the revenue streams work today. Maybe people whose products you buy. I guess the idol culture is a lot different with regards to the Asian industry rather than the American music industry. But after that, I didn't really have a lot of commentary left on the other trainees beyond the top 9. But let's get to the TikTok save mechanic. There were some thoughts I had during that. Ruan at one point was crying and listening to the appeals of the girls and having to choose. And here's the thing: when I saw her up there and I saw the people she had to choose, for sure I knew she was going to choose Yui because Yui is Japanese, and so in the end I feel like she would have chosen the fellow Japanese person. But I actually wanted her to choose Gum Hee from CSR so that Duna would have a friend. And then also, I feel like she didn't have a lot of chances to shine. She was basically muted, and she didn't really have a chance to stand out. But in the end, she did choose Yui, and I was right about that. And then also, Pailu, for her group, she was making an odd comment about awkwardness between her and Pimmy, and I had no idea what that was even about. Like, did they fight for center? Is it something innocent like that, or was it more kind of like where there's drama behind the scenes, or someone made a comment about another person, or they just kind of had different personalities and just either completely ignored each other, or even clashed? I don't know. It was an odd comment, and I don't think I'm the only person speculating about that. And then, other than that, last thing, Krista, I feel like she made the right choice in saving Arjun, and she did it for friendship, which is probably not the right reason. But I feel like that was still the right choice. I feel like Arjun, out of all the girls, should have gotten through. And I thought that was kind of weird because I think was Chaba. I think it was Chaba. What's her name? She made an appeal for Prem, and I feel like that was kind of sabotaging the other girls in the group. But in the end, I feel like Krista made the right choice, and she chose the right girl. But anyways, I guess that's it overall. I kind of like this elimination. It wasn't like really tense or drawn out or chopped up like the other eliminations from other survival shows. And here's the thing: for a long time, they were actually just eliminating girls on the spot, and so I kind of like that section of the show. Eventually, it did become like this part where they're just blasting through the top 29 girls and just saying, "Okay, you're in, you're in, you're in, you're in." But earlier on, they were kind of like choosing these random criterias and saying, "Oh, these girls from this group step up," and they just eliminated girls on the spot, and the girls would have to go back to their seats and just cheer on the other girls, and none of them seemed upset. So I feel like it worked out. I think it's a very different situation than like if you watch like the Japanese or Korean survival shows. Like they kind of leave them all in anticipation, and they say there's still one chance at the end. You still have one chance, one seat at the end. That might be you. And they do that to all of them. It's all stressful and like tense. But this show, I feel like they did an okay job, despite the fact that they did it all in the gym and they didn't have like a nice set. There's a lot of budgetary issues on this show, I think. But anyways, I guess that's it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comment box down below. And also, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so I can see you in the next video.